Brittany 911. What's the location of your emergency?
There's a Jeep in the woods. Looks like somebody drove off the road. Okay. It's alright. We're going to get you out of here, okay?
This emergency call was made on August 28, 2013. The caller told the 911 operator that they saw a car stuck between the trees beside the highway. Inside the car were a young woman named Brittany Stykes and her 1-year-old daughter, Aubrey. When the car was found, Brittany was no longer alive, and the exact cause of her death was unknown. Brittany Stykes was a hard-working young woman. She was born in Ripley, Ohio. Brittany spent her childhood surrounded by her family's farm work. She loved spending time with her family, especially helping them care for the animals. She would often work in the garage with her father, David, learning how to repair cars from him. In 2011, at the age of 20, Brittany was working at a Subway restaurant in her hometown. At this job, she met her 38-year-old coworker, Shane. Brittany quickly found common interests with him, and their friendship soon turned into a romantic relationship. Within about a year, they got married, and Brittany became the stepmother of Shane's 2 children from a previous marriage. A short time later, the couple welcomed a daughter named Aubrey. In 2013, Brittany was 22 years old. She was living with her husband and children in the town of Georgetown, about 20 kilometers from the city where she was born. At that time, Brittany was pregnant with her 2nd child and was in her 5th month of pregnancy. Her husband, Shane, was constantly working, and Brittany was usually at home alone with the children. She lacked emotional support and often missed her family for this reason. She visited her family in Ripley almost every day. On August 28, 2013, it was Brittany's father David's birthday. Since it was an important day for her father, Brittany planned to visit her family as usual. At around 7 p.m., Brittany left home and took her 1-year-old daughter Aubrey with her. At 7:15 p.m., she sent the following message to her father. "It's raining in town. We're getting close to home. Aubrey fell asleep 5 minutes ago." At 7:29 p.m., one of the city's security cameras near the Georgetown exit captured Brittany's yellow Jeep traveling on Highway 125, according to Brittany's route after Highway 125. She would continue onto Highway 68 and then Highway 62, entering a wooded area. The trip was expected to take about 15 minutes. However, Brittany never arrived at her father's house. At around 8 p.m., a married couple was driving along Highway 68. The man behind the wheel noticed a yellow Jeep lodged among the trees beside the highway. He decided to stop and check if everything was okay. He was concerned that the rainy weather might have caused the driver of the yellow Jeep to lose control of the vehicle on the wet and slippery road, resulting in an accident. As he approached the vehicle, which was stuck among the trees a few meters away, he first tried calling out to the driver. However, the area was very quiet. He could hear a radio playing inside the yellow Jeep, along with the sound of a crying child. When he walked up to the Jeep and opened the front passenger door, he found a crying 1-year-old child inside. Aubrey had suffered a head injury, but she was still alive. When she saw the man, she began crying louder and calling out, "Mom!" beside Aubrey. In the driver's seat, he saw the injured body of Brittany Stykes. Brittany's lips were blue, and blood was coming from her chest. The man who discovered the scene was a hunter. Because of this, he recognized that the chest wound and the bleeding could indicate a fatal gunshot fired from close range. His suspicion was further supported by bullet marks found on the windshield of the car. The man immediately called 911 and reported the incident. When police officers and paramedics arrived at the scene, they confirmed that Brittany had died. Sadly, Brittany's unborn baby, whom she was carrying in the 5th month of her pregnancy, had also died. Her daughter Aubrey was rushed to a nearby hospital. Medical experts later determined that one of the bullets that struck Brittany's vehicle had grazed the surface of Aubrey's head. Surgeons performed several operations on Aubrey, and she survived. As detectives began investigating the case, they initially believed that the crash had been caused by a stray shotgun pellet fired from the woods that accidentally struck Brittany's vehicle. However, that was not the case. After carefully examining the crash scene, detectives determined that Brittany's vehicle had been struck by 5 bullets. According to forensic experts, the bullets had been fired from close range. The shooter had specifically targeted the driver's side of the vehicle. Medical examiners determined that Brittany had been shot in the ribs, neck, and chest. Due to severe blood loss, her chances of survival were extremely low. After thoroughly examining Brittany's Jeep, detectives were unable to find any clues that could help identify the perpetrator. However, they reached several important conclusions about the case. First, the shooter must have fired at Brittany's vehicle from another vehicle. According to detectives, the shooter either fired while approaching from the opposite direction or while following Brittany's vehicle from behind, waiting for an opportunity to open fire several times. Second, investigators believe the crime may have been motivated by personal reasons. No one had touched Brittany's vehicle after the shooting, and the cash and valuables inside were left untouched. This indicated that the shooter's motive was not robbery. The sole objective appeared to be killing Brittany. Third, detectives believe that the killer either knew Brittany would be on that road at that time or had been following her that evening, waiting for the right moment to commit the crime. Taking all of these facts into consideration, detectives naturally focused first on Brittany's husband, Shane, as a potential suspect. They questioned Shane extensively, but he told police that he was not involved in the crime. On August 28th, Shane had been at work throughout the day, and at the time of the crime, he was working out at a gym. Shane's statements were confirmed by his co-workers and gym staff. Forensic experts examined Shane's personal belongings and clothing for gunshot residue from a firearm. However, the analysis revealed no evidence linking him to the shooting. Detectives also questioned Shane several times using a polygraph, commonly known as a lie detector test. However, Shane successfully passed all of these tests. In addition, he genuinely appeared to be devastated by what had happened and was deeply concerned about his daughter Aubrey after her surgery. Shane did not seem like someone who would harm his child. Unable to find any evidence against Shane, detectives decided to speak with Brittany's family. David, Brittany's father, said that he had been concerned about his daughter's emotional state during the last month before the incident. According to him, Brittany was very worried about her second pregnancy because Shane did not want another child due to financial difficulties. In addition, shortly before her death, Brittany had asked her father several times to teach her how to use a firearm. David thought this request was unusual because it did not match his daughter's personality. Brittany explained that her desire to learn how to use a firearm was simply a precaution for her own safety, although David's statement contained some information that detectives considered noteworthy. It did not provide any useful leads for the investigation. No progress was made in the investigation of Brittany Stykes' murder for 2 years. However, in June 2015, a woman named Kelly contacted the local police department and claimed that she had information about the crime. According to Kelly, Brittany's murder was the responsibility of her former boyfriend, Tommy Lopez. Kelly also told police that Brittany's husband, Shane, owed a large amount of money to someone and had failed to repay the debt. That person had allegedly paid Tommy Lopez to kill Brittany as an act of revenge against Shane, according to Kelly. On August 28, 2013, she was spending time with Tommy Lopez, who was her boyfriend at the time, and she was unaware of any plans he may have had to commit a crime. Later that evening, they went to a gas station to buy fuel for Tommy's vehicle. While they were at the gas station, a yellow Jeep passed by on the main road. Tommy immediately started his vehicle and began following the yellow Jeep. Both vehicles left the town and entered the wooded area along Highway 68. Tommy then placed police-style lights on top of his vehicle because it was cloudy and already evening. Brittany did not realize that Tommy's vehicle was not a real police car. Believing that he was a police officer, she pulled over and stopped her vehicle. Tommy approached Brittany's vehicle and fired several shots before fleeing the scene. Kelly stated that she had not reported this information to the police 2 years earlier because she was afraid of threats from Tommy. As time passed, Kelly's fear gradually diminished, and since she no longer had any connection to Tommy Lopez, she decided to tell the police everything she knew. After receiving this information, detectives quickly located Tommy Lopez, searched his belongings, and conducted several detailed interviews. Tommy Lopez maintained that he was innocent and insisted that he had no involvement in the crime. Detectives were unable to find any evidence linking Tommy Lopez to the case. As a result, They began to suspect that Kelly may have fabricated the entire story using information she had learned from television news reports. According to detectives, Kelly may have given a false statement in an attempt to harm her former boyfriend. In addition, there were significant inconsistencies in her story. According to Kelly's account, Brittany had pulled over after seeing what she believed were police lights activated by Tommy. However, this did not match the physical evidence at the crash scene. Investigators found that Brittany's vehicle had left the highway at a relatively high speed, entered the wooded area, and crashed into trees. This conclusion was supported by the Jeep's tire tracks on the ground, the vehicle's open hood, and tree branches embedded in the windshield. Although Kelly's story was discredited and Tommy Lopez was no longer considered a murder suspect, Brittany's family began to believe that her killing may have been carried out by a hired hitman. Even after 5 years had passed, the investigation into Brittany's murder had made little progress. The police eventually returned Brittany's Jeep, which had been held as evidence, to her father, David. David was extremely upset by the police's decision. He believed that Brittany's Jeep was still one of the most important pieces of evidence in the unsolved case. Brittany's family believes that the police put too little effort into investigating the case and that her killer remains free. The family's offering a $20,000 reward for information that could help solve Brittany's murder. Because Brittany was killed on her father David's birthday, he no longer celebrates his birthdays. Her daughter, Aubrey, who survived the incident, has since grown up and remembers nothing about that day. Aubrey often asks her grandparents what happened to her mother, but they have never been able to give her a clear answer. The murder of Brittany Stykes remains a truly puzzling case. Thank you for watching. For more videos like this and to support the channel, don't forget to subscribe, like the video, and leave a comment. See you in the next video. Goodbye.